So today I'm showing you how to build a clean looking shiplap media wall with a fireplace of course and a mantle without having to fill a single nail hole on the shiplap itself. It's gonna be no putting, no wood filler, no sanding, just a smooth finish straight off the saw. Now to get started, I'm gonna show you here, show you that when most people do it, most people that install or that build a shiplap media wall, what they do is they either build it on their floor, the living room floor, or they build it right on the wall. But I don't recommend that way. I recommend building the media wall in two different sections. To build it in two sections, that's right here. So you have the top section, and then you're gonna have the bottom section of the media wall. Now, whatever the height of your media wall is, so I think, let's see, this one is 9 feet, right? Whatever the height is, your framing is gonna be just 2 inches shorter. And I'll explain why that in a little bit. So this right here, the total, it's going to be 2 inches shorter. So you got 106, that's 108, of course, 2 inches shorter. Now, the cutoff is going to be, the bottom section's cutoff is going to be the bottom of the TV opening because we're doing a recess. The TV is going to be recessed. Now, the height from the floor, the distance from the floor to where the TV opening starts, whatever that is, usually we do ours at 48 inches, whatever that is. You want to deduct a half an inch. So let's say it's 4 feet right here, which is 48 inches. Now you want to deduct half an inch from 48, which is 47 and a half. You go over here. Now, see if you measure from here to here, you got your 47 and a half inches. Now the depth, whatever the total depth is with the shiplap, we want to make sure that the framing is 1 inch less. So this one is the total depth. We decided to do it at 10 inches, so we're going to do the framing, of course, at 9 inches. Now this is the opening for the fireplace. I like to do ours at 12 inches. So it's right there, as you can see. 12 inches is where the bottom of the fireplace begins. Now, over here, once you do the bottom part, once you frame out the bottom part, you frame out the top part. Let's get rid of this right here. So you want to make sure when you do the top part, you can either do the top part. After you do the bottom part, you can do the top part. So it makes it a little easier to line up. If you want to do it, you can do it together. Or you can do it separate, which you have to make sure that this part is detachable from the bottom part. Because otherwise, if you build it all together, most of the time, this is for a 75-inch TV, you're not gonna be able to get inside the house because it's too wide. This is, I believe, it's gonna be 85 inches wide, and then most doors are 80 inches. Some are 8 feet, but most are 80 inches. The doors. Now, whatever the TV opening is, we always recommend adding 1 inch all the way around. Now, or actually half inch on each side, or adding 1 inch to the width, 1 inch to the height. Now this is a 75-inch TV. This is be a unit for a 75-inch TV, just like the one back there. So we typically do ours at 69 inches wide, the opening, and 41 inches tall. So if you have 69, you want to add an inch. So you're gonna have 70 inches. Same thing. If it's 41, you want to have it at 42, right? So you have that there. You got your framing done. Of course, you want, like I said, you want to make sure it's detachable from the bottom part. And then when you put it back together, I'm going to show you, but typically we're going to screw it in from underneath here at the very end on both sides. Now, this is where it gets very important. In order to achieve that shiplap, to get the shiplap on there without any visible nail holes, without having to fill any of those nail holes. So what we're going to do is we're going to add, right here, we're going to add a half-inch sheet. You can do 3/4, but I typically recommend half-inch sheet of plywood or OSB onto the front of the framing of both sections. So right here is the bottom section. You're gonna add the sheet there. Then you're gonna cut out, of course, for the fireplace. We cut ours with a router. With a router bit, with a router itself. Some people do. You could do it with the jigsaw. You could also do it with the circular saw and a circulating or a oscillating tool. We call it a multi-tool. So you want to do that first, and you want to screw it on there and then cut it out. And then what you want to do is you want to do the same thing, basically the same thing with the top part. But of course, the top part, you don't need to cut it out this way. You can do it in 3 different sections. But make sure it's just the front of the unit itself, of the framing itself. So you have 1 section, 2 sections, 3. And of course, this one you can actually, same thing, like I said, it's going to be, I'm just showing you basically that it goes on the framing. So you screw that on there. Of course, this one, it gets stacked on there, but you want to leave them separated. for now. And then this is where it's very important. Now, this is obviously shiplap. This is shiplap. There's always a either an eighth or a quarter inch gap as you install the shiplap. We start from obviously from the bottom and work your way up. Now this one, when we do is you want to shoot the brad nails or the 18 gauge nails onto. This is a great thing about having this right here. You can actually shoot it anywhere on the face, because you don't have to hit a stud. You can, as long as you hit the OSB or you hit the plywood, be fine. Now you can actually use adhesive, or I would do wood glue as you're putting on your shiplap. Now the bottom part, you want to hit, like I said, you want to do it on, it's called the rabbit. I'll just call it a groove from now on. You want to hit it on the groove right here, and the bottom part, because we typically like to put trim, we can actually shoot it right here as well. Now what's gonna make it, you're gonna achieve that look. You're gonna get that look without having any nail holes on the front. You'd be like, well, how am I gonna secure it? You know, because it's just right here. It's what you're gonna do is you're gonna do screws from the back of the unit. So you have inch, I recommend 3/4 inch screws. Now if your distance from here to here is more than 1 inch, then you can use 1 inch screws, but otherwise you're gonna use 3/4 inch screws. Now you want to make sure, like I said, it grabs a good chunk of it, as you can see there. So you do about same thing, 10 inches all the way across. It grabs that shiplap and you run it all the way across, and then you just do the same thing for the rest of the unit. Let's take that off. Now over here you got the rest of it right here. Now on the fireplace opening, you don't necessarily need to put because it's a little trickier on this part, because typically the framing, you see 2x4s, you can't put a screw all the way through, right? So on the good thing about the fireplaces, electric fireplaces, most of them, let's get moving okay, right here. The electric fireplaces, once you install it, they typically have a flange. Oh, they almost all have a flange. They put a flange on there. The flange is typically ½ inch to, or maybe an inch or even more, that covers the shiplap itself. So if you get about 1/4 inch from the edge, you can shoot brad nails all the way around to secure that section. So when you put the flange, it's gonna cover those nails anyways. So same thing over here is when you start doing the sides, you want to shoot it there, right? You want to make sure it grabs a stud there, and then over here you do all the sides, and you want to make sure it goes all the way to the front of the shiplap. You want to kind of make it this flush right here, because now typically you can miter the corners, but for this demonstration we're going to do this method right here, what most people do. Now right here you want to shoot the brad. You're like, okay, well typically it's a little harder to screw in all right here, because we don't have this part, obviously we don't have any sheathing, we don't have any plywood, right? Okay, well how am I gonna do that? So what you do here is you shoot the brad nails. It catches this shiplap right here, and on this side you shoot the brad nail, and then you want to make it kind of within 3/4 of an inch from the wall, or from the edge of it, from the edge of the shiplap. Why? Because when you put trim, we're going to use 3/4 inch trim that wraps around on each side. When you use trim, let's see, that 3/4 inch, it's right there. It's going to cover that piece. Same thing on this side. When you use 3/4 inch trim, 0.5, it's going to cover those nail holes as well. So you don't have to worry about fitting those nail holes as well either. So the flange is going to cover these. The screw is going to go through the back, and then the brad nails that are here, the trim's going to cover that as well. So now once you're done with the bottom part, you know, you have your framing and you have your shiplap on the bottom part, on the bottom section. You want to add the top section. Now how we mentioned earlier that you should have the framing ½ inch shorter than what the bottom of the TV opening from the floor would be. So from here, the TV opening would be 48 inches, and the framing was 47.5. The reason being is because you're going to add a ½ inch of plywood. Now this right here, I recommend either some nice plywood, or you could do drywall. You can add it here. Let's get rid of this so I can show you better. So you want to add it all the way around. You want to attach this part to the bottom section, and these three to the top section itself. Let's see. So like I said, these three get attached to the top section. This one gets attached to the bottom section. Now, from right here, now that it's on there, it's going to be 48 inches like we mentioned earlier. That's what we wanted to do. And then you can actually paint it as well. So once you have that on there, you're going to move to the next section. We're going to do the backing of it. Now this is the way I like to build ours. We like to build ours when we build our media walls. We like to have this opening. We have a piece of plywood, and then we cut out the middle section, and then we put 2x4s. So the 2x4s, we grab the TV mount. So it had to be on a full motion TV mount. The TV mount the TV mount gets screwed onto these 2x4s, and then I like to have a gap. Obviously, it gets a little more complicated. I'll make a much longer video later. So I like to have a gap, an inch and a half gap right here. So this right here, you want to have some spacing. The way I do it is so that whenever you run wiring, you throw some wiring, or let's say you have a plug down here, you don't have a plug up here, you can run a surge protector through here to this channel, and this is all open right here. You can run it through here, and it goes all the way down there, and you have a lot of airflow. You have no problems because you don't want to run it through the wall, so you don't have any problems with airflow or actually accessibility. So like I said, you have a plug down here or a plug right here. You can run it up, the surge protector up. You connect the fireplace directly to the plug, to the bottom plug, and then you have the bottom outlet, and then you have the top outlet. You run the surge protector up here, then the TV mount goes here, and then you have this board. So when you put the TV on, it's covered. Now let's move on to the next part. So right here you have this. The rest of this is the rest of the shiplap. Now you install the rest of the shiplap all the way up. Of course, you want to still make sure that it's removable, right? So that's removable. Same thing. Now what you want to do is, now this is not, you don't have to do on this part right here, but you want to add what I like to do is add a 2x4 across here and secure it really well. So that way you can anchor, when you anchor it to the wall, you can screw it in from here. You can also screw it in from here, and then screw it to the anchor to the wall from here. And then you want to add these two pieces. You want to add a board right here, just a little lower than where this opening is. And then up here as well, you want to add, now we're going to do an inch and a half up. That's why I mentioned having a 2-inch spacing up there. It makes it easier to sit on top as well. So you have this board here, and then we're going to anchor it up here. We're going to anchor it here, and then we're going to, of course, like I mentioned earlier, we're going to anchor it there. So you have all that, and then this is the finished product right here. Now, let's hide that, see it, so give you better demonstration. You anchor it here, you have your plug right here, and then of course you have your TV there, and then of course you have it anchored from there, and then like I said, on top you have that 2-inch, the trim on top covers that, and then you have it anchored here. So you have it secured from here, here, and here. Now the most important, of course, this whole unit sits basically all the way on the floor. So you could just put some good screws up there, here. But the main thing is, of course, to have this secure, because most of the weight that's going to be pulling forward is going to be the TV. They're not as heavy unless you go with if you go with a much bigger TV, anything over 85, then you really want to add maybe some extra 2x4s and secure it really well, because those 100-inch TVs get pretty heavy. So let's go ahead and get that. Hide off. So see, we put trim up here, and I mentioned earlier to put the nail holes here, because this trim covers here. So here, and then let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of this. You can see it better. So this is the unit itself, right? And then if you let's do the X-ray. You can see is that trim covers all those nail holes. You can get it at Home Depot, or you can get it at Lowe's. You don't have to necessarily have to do the 1x2. A lot of people do the 1x2 trim. I don't necessarily do that. It looks cleaner when you do a thinner trim on the corners, and then you want to do one in the back, because the walls are never straight. Most houses or walls are never straight. And then, like I said, when you anchor it together, when you put it together, the top and the bottom part, you screw it in from underneath here, and then it ties it together. You tie it together, and you anchor it to the wall, and then of course you have your plug there, and then you have a pretty good setup. Now this is a kind of a quick video, but like I said, I'll make a much longer one, better, more explain a lot better. And then but it gives you the idea that basically you're going to use let's see, delete and hide all. You're going to use the screws right? You're gonna use screws, and then like I said, I would recommend adhesive or wood glue. You can use screws, and then you want to screw it from the back. You want to shoot out just on the rabbet or the groove right here. You want to do it all the way up. You want to do it in 2 sections. Bring it into the house, and you want to make sure it's securely on the wall. So it's a pretty good setup right there, just like our picture. Now this is a fireplace, different fireplace, but give you an idea. So basically the same way we did it. See this corner trim right here? It's a thin trim. You got the 1x4 up there, which is really 3.5, and then you have the fireplace. Now we added a soundbar insert on this one. I think I recommend if you do a soundbar insert, that the soundbar projects sound only from the front and not from the top. If it projects sound from the top, then I would just sit it on the side on the mantle itself. So maybe that's for today. I'll make a much longer one next time. Thanks for watching.